Hello everyone and welcome to another installment of the solo Rita campaign of Return to Dunwich Legacy. I'm your host, Nate, lost in time and space, and before we get into the gameplay, I want to lay down some ground rules because this campaign isn't your typical playthrough. I've chosen to include all the return to cards when setting up each scenario. Furthermore, I'll be playing through this campaign with 3 of the ultimatums included in the additional rules for the Return to Dunwich Legacy. The first ultimatum I chose, the Ultimatum of Dread, means I won't be skipping the first Mythos phase of the game. Additionally, I've further challenged myself by including the Ultimatum of Induction, which means I won't be earning any experience throughout the course of this campaign. None whatsoever. The last ultimatum I'm going with is the Ultimatum of Finality, which means if I'm ever defeated in a scenario, I'm killed or driven insane. This is the second scenario of this playthrough, so if you haven't already, go check out the first episode of this campaign. Link to that video will be in the description. To briefly summarize the events at Miskatonic University, Rita failed to locate Professor Rice, and failed to save the students from the experiment, but did manage to make it out alive with her sanity intact. Failure to save the students means there is an additional tablet token in the Chaos Bag for the remainder of the campaign, and Professor Rice has been kidnapped. It sucks to have to add a tablet to the bag. Probably could have saved the students if I had played better. It doubly sucks because going into the house always wins. I have every intention on cheating. Rita can't afford to be wasting actions trying to investigate the locations and likely fail. Hopefully the search for Dr. Morgan goes better than the previous investigation. Alrighty, getting into the game here, you can see that I already have the scenario set up. We'll go ahead and gain our 5 resources, and we'll draw our opening hand after we give our deck a quick shuffle, of course. Shuffle up. Our opening hand is going to be Winging It, Gravedigger Shuffle, Resourceful, I'm Done Running, and Rise to the Occasion. I think about this for a second, but this is a pretty awful starting hand in this scenario, so I'm going to go ahead and pitch my entire hand. And then we're going to have an opening hand of Not Without a Fight, Track Shoes, Lucky, Cheap Shot, and Peter Silvestri. This is a great opening hand. So we're going to go ahead and give a quick shuffle here. And then we'll go ahead and enter the first Mythos phase of the game, remembering that we're not skipping this. So we'll put a Doom on the agenda here, and we'll draw a copy of Raise the Stakes. So I knew I was going to have to cheat in order to get through the scenario quickly enough, so I just went ahead and cheated and put an Elder token there to remind myself, in case of other game effects. Entering the first investigation phase of the game here, I'm going to use my first action to play Peter Silvestri. I'll go ahead and spend the 3 resources and an action. And then I think about this for a second here. I'm not sure if I want to move or try to investigate. It doesn't really seem worth my time. So I end up moving here. So we're going to go ahead and move to the lounge, spend our action, and then moving to the lounge, we'll reveal it. And this is the new lounge from Return to Dunwich Legacy, so we're going to have to go ahead and as well put the Clover Club stage into play. I'll go ahead and we'll do that, and then think about this for another second here, whether or not I want to move to the stage, but I ultimately decide on moving to the bar. So that's going to be our last action for this turn. Enemy phase here, the Clover Club Pit Boss will move to the bar. And then upkeep phase will gain a resource. Go ahead and draw our second copy of Peter Silvestri. Give you a quick hand recap here. Second Mythos phase here, we're going to add our second Doom to the agenda here. We'll go ahead and draw our encounter card, which is Cursed Luck. We'll go ahead and put that into our threat area. Thankfully, we don't have to make too many skill tests for the time being, so we can ignore this for the time being. Alrighty, so investigation phase. I think about this for a second here, but ultimately I decide to move to the card room with my first action. Go ahead and remember to put the die down. There we go. And then we'll use our second action here. We'll spend our 2 resources. then our action, of course, to reveal a chaos token. And we will reveal an auto-fail. What? Ugh. Alright. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and use beginner's luck here, and we're going to treat that as I'm sure you guessed, an elder sign. Yep. So go ahead and do that, and then we'll gain our 2 clues here. And gain 2 resources. And with our last action here, we're going to go ahead and play track shoes. I feel like we're going to need that soon. So now our board is completely set up. Enemy phase, the pit boss will move to the card room. And then we will move into upkeep here. We'll gain a resource. And we will draw our card, which is Look What I Found. And quick hand recap here. We'll add a Doom to the agenda, and we'll draw something in the drinks here. So thankfully we haven't had a drink, so this doesn't affect us, but we'll go ahead and surge into Twist of Fate. So we're going to have to go ahead and reveal a random token here. Chaos Bag says... Is it going to be kind? Ooh, a cultist. Alright, well, since we've already cheated, we might as well keep cheating. So we're going to go ahead and do this again. We'll cheat again, and then we'll just treat that as an elder sign. Alright, investigation phase here. We'll get our 3 actions. And then first action, we're going to go ahead and move to the bar. And I think about this for a second. I'm debating on whether or not I want to just use an action to gain a resource, but I ultimately do. So I'll go ahead and gain a resource with an action, and then we'll use the last action to have a drink. So we'll gain 2 clues here. And then afterward, we will draw 2 cards. The first of which is Unexpected Courage. And the second card is Perseverance. So I'll give you a quick hand recap here. Go ahead and put the skull token there just to remind myself that I cheated for other game effects. Alright, so that was our turn. We'll go ahead and advance here. So we go ahead and put the Darkened Hall into play here. So we're going to go ahead and set this up real quick. Put the Darkened Hall, and then we'll discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until we find a mobster. And then he gets spawned into the Darkened Hall. Alrighty. So, we're going to go ahead and move to enemy phase here. The pit boss will move back into the bar with us. We'll go ahead and move into upkeep. We'll gain a resource. We'll draw a copy of Winging It. And then give you a quick hand recap here. I have 8 cards exactly now. And then moving into the 4th Mythos phase here, the agenda will advance. So we'll go ahead and shuffle the encounter discard pile. Give that a shuffly shuffle. And then I bumped the tripod, that was my bad. All right. And then, since we've already completed extracurricular activity, we're going to have to go ahead and move to Agenda 2B. So with that, we're going to have to spawn in Abomination, remove Labella Luna from the game, and that enemy is going to go ahead and spawn in the lounge. So I'll go ahead and give those a quick shuffle, and we'll pick one of those at random. We get a conglomeration of spheres that'll go ahead and go into play in the lounge. And then we go ahead and shuffle the discard pile again and give the encounter deck a shuffle. Alright, so our draw for this Mythos phase is another copy of Raise the Stakes. So, I'm not sure if you can do this, but I'm gonna go ahead and just cheat again. I mean, we might as well. We've cheated this turn, so we'll go ahead and do that. The pit boss is now engaged with us, considering now that we're in Agenda 3. Alright, so investigation phase. I'm gonna use my first action to evade 3 versus 6. Chaos Bag will say... Please be kind. Chaos Bag says Skull, which is a -2. So thankfully we pass, and we pass with a 1 or more, so we're going to evade the pit boss, discard Cursed Luck. We'll use Rita's reaction to move to the card room, and then from there I'll move to the Darkened Hall. And when the Darkened Hall is revealed, you put the 3 set-aside back hall doorways into play. So I'm going to go ahead and set that up here real quick. And then kind of move it so it's better in view of the camera here, so just give me a second here. We'll go ahead and move all that stuff. And then before the mobster engages me, I'm going to go ahead and use track shoes. We'll use track shoes here and we'll test 3 versus 7. And our pull from the Chaos Bag is a 0, so we pass. So we get a free move. So from there, we're going to move into one of these locations, which happens to be the art gallery. So I'm going to go ahead and set that up. We'll put a clue there. And then, yeah, so I count the actions. But I forget to move the die, stupidly enough. So I'm going to go ahead and investigate here. But debating on what card I want to commit, I end up committing Look What I Found. And that's going to be a investigate of a 2 versus 4 here. And the Chaos Bag will show us a +1. Nice. So we get that clue. And I'm just going to go ahead and use a die to represent that so it's easier to see. And then here, yeah, so here I flub up and I forget that I used an action to move into the Darkened Hall. But I end up gaining a resource, which I don't think is going to end up mattering too much, as you'll see later on in the game. So enemy phase here, the conglomeration will move to the card room, but I accidentally forget to move the pit boss into the card room as well. So we'll go into upkeep phase with those 2 mistakes. We'll gain a resource. We'll draw Not Without a Fight this turn, and I'll give you a quick hand recap here. Alrighty, and then we'll enter the Mythos phase here. We'll put a Doom on the agenda. That's going to be the first of 7. And then our draw from the encounter deck this turn is an O'Banion's Thug. Ugh, more enemies, great. So we'll go ahead and put him into play engaged with us in our threat area. And then we'll think for a second here, but obviously we ultimately have to evade. So we'll go ahead and evade 2 versus 7. And the Chaos Bag will show us a Elder Sign. Nice, so we pass. Flying colors, I might add. And then I take a second here whether or not I want to move or if I want to ping, but I ultimately decide to move. And then I go ahead and move into the Darkened Hallway again. And then I'm going to go ahead and use Track Shoes again. That card is so good. So we're going to test 3 versus 7 here. And go ahead and pull out the Chaos Bag, give that a shuffle. And the Chaos Bag shows a -1, so we still pass. And we'll remember to flip the die over this time. There we go. And then we'll move into another one of those locations, which happens to be the back alley. Second action, use Winging It to investigate the back alley at a 0 versus 2. The Chaos Bag will show us a -2, so it's 0 versus 0, so we tie, so we pass. We get our second clue in order to advance here. So we have one last action here. which I'm just gonna go ahead and I think about it for a second, but I have a full hand. I gain a resource, enemy phase. I'll remember to move the pit boss into the card room. The conglomeration will move back into the darkened hallway, and we'll go into upkeep phase here, get my actions back. I'll gain a resource, draw a card, and we draw a copy of Rise to the Occasion. And we'll go ahead and move into the Mythos phase here, add our second Doom, and we'll draw a Swarm of Rats. My goodness, so many enemies. What is happening? Alright, so now we have more enemies to deal with, so we'll go ahead and evade 3 versus 7 here. Yeah, we're going to evade. Chaos Bag says Skull -2. So we pass here, and then I think about it for a second on whether or not I want to move or if I want to evade. Or rather, deal a damage, and I ultimately decide to deal a damage as I don't want to evade the rats again, as that seems not worth it. So we'll go ahead and use Rita to deal a damage to the rats, and then we'll use our second action this turn to move, use track shoes, and we're going to test 3 versus 7. Alrighty, Chaos Bag says... Auto fail, you gotta be kidding me. Oh my god. Alright, so the conglomeration and the monster will engage us. That sucks. That really sucks. So we have one action left here this turn, and I'm gonna use it to evade the conglomeration. That's gonna be a 4 versus 7. And Chaos Bag will show to us a... Oh, actually, forgot. We're gonna commit not without a fight here. So that's going to be a 4 versus 10. Yep, 4 versus 10. Chaos Bag actually says this time a cultist. So that's -3, so we still pass. We gain 3 resources, up to 7 now. The conglomeration's evaded, but we're going to go ahead and that's our last action. We'll move into enemy phase. The monster will get discarded from the conglomeration being in the same location. And then the conglomeration will ready, but not deal damage to us. And then the pit boss, which should have died last turn, will come up to us this turn and whack us for 2 damage. So that sucks. So that's what I mean about that gaining a resource earlier not mattering too much, because now we're going to have to spend an action here. So we'll gain a resource up to 8, draw a card, which is Cheap Shot. Give you a quick hand recap here. And then we will move into Mythos phase. It's going to be 3 Doom here. And then we draw a Caught Cheating, which sucks. So we're going to have to lose 2 resources and take a damage here. And then we surge into another swarm of rats. Ugh, 3 enemies now on us. Well, this just sucks. So we could do things like Cheap Shot or what have you, but I don't think we really need to get fancy here, and we just need to get these enemies off of us. So we'll go ahead and evade the swarm of rats first. That's going to be a 3 versus 7 again. So we'll go ahead and give that a quick shuffle, and Chaos Bag will say Cultist again, so that's a -3, so we still pass. We gain 3 resources. We will ping the swarm of rats to kill it, using Rita. And then second action here, we probably evade another enemy, obviously, but which enemy we choose to evade first. So we're going to spend our action, we're going to evade. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and evade the pit boss here. I mean, just kidding. Just kidding. Yeah, we'll go ahead and invade the conglomeration again. That's going to be 2 versus 7. We evade that because the pit boss will likely just die, so we go ahead and we succeed there, and then we'll go ahead and use our last action to evade the pit boss 3 versus 7. And we reveal a skull. That's a -2, so we pass again. He's evaded. That's our turn. Enemy phase. The pit boss will get discarded. And then the conglomeration will ready again. And then we'll move into upkeep phase. I'll gain a resource up to 10. And then we'll draw a card, which is Flashlight for the turn, which finally brings us back up to 8 cards. So our hand is stacked now. Plenty of stuff to do. Plenty of resources. We just need to get out of here. Ooh, actually, it's a 9 card, so I end up having to discard a copy of Cheap Shot. 4th Mythos phase, we draw another enemy. My goodness. An O'Banion's Thug this time. Do some thinking here, my goodness, so many enemies. But we'll start with evading the O'Banion's Thug. It's going to be 2 versus 7 again. We'll go ahead and give the Chaos Bag a shuffle here. And the Chaos Bag says -2. So we evade him. I knock the tripod. Nice job. Alright, so he's evaded. We'll go ahead and evade the conglomeration again. Committing, not without a fight. That's going to be 4 versus 9. 7 plus 2, yep, 9. So 4 versus 9. Good, give the Chaos Bag a shuffle again, and it will show us a -2. Alright, so we pass. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and do that. And then we'll use Rita to move, finally, into the VIP area. So I'll go ahead and put the clue on that real quick here. And then we'll spend our 2 clues to advance. And then we will go ahead and put Peter Clover into play here. Yeah, we'll put him into play, and then we'll search the encounter deck for the Servant of the Lurker. We search for that guy because he has a lower evade. We're in a decent enough spot to take some damage, so the damage value doesn't matter too much. So we go ahead and give that a quick shuffle there. And we still have 1 action. So let's go ahead and do something here. Yeah, we're looking pretty good here. Hopefully we can get Peter and get the hell out of here. So I'm going to go ahead and use my last action to move back into the hallway, which I know seems like suicide. We'll use track shoes. And we're going to test 3 versus 7 to zoom on out of there. So we'll give the Chaos Bag a shuffle here. And that's going to say tablet. So that's a -2. And we don't fail, so we don't have to discard any resources. And then we'll use that to move into the card room. And track shoes has been immensely useful. Enemy phase, the O'Banion's Thug will get discarded. The conglomeration will ready, and the servant will actually come and eat us for a good chunk of damage. I'll put a horror around Peter here. And yeah, now we have the servant on us. Discard the top 2 cards here before I draw a card, but I apparently just forget to draw a card. But I do draw a card from the Mythos phase. That should be 5 Doom now. I do realize this mistake post-edit, and it doesn't affect this scenario too much, so you'll see. So go ahead and enter our investigation phase here. Used our first action to evade the servant at a 2 versus 7 here. Chaos Bag says Elder Sign, nice. So that's a +2, and we can use Rita's reaction multiple times. So we'll go ahead and he's evaded, and since we can, we might as well put a damage on him. And then, so that was our first action. And then I think about this for a second. I'm debating on whether or not I want to take attacks of opportunity, but I don't. So I'm going to go ahead and use the mobster for a free move, essentially, and evade. 2 versus 7. Chaos Bag says -3. So we evade him. And then since we can use Rita's reaction multiple times, we can move for free here. So we'll move into the bar with our second action here. And I'm just reading on the parlay action. So that's a willpower 3 test that we have to make. So I do some thinking. debating on whether I want to move again and then try next turn, but I don't, so I end up parlaying here. And we're going to head and commit Unexpected Courage and our second copy of Peter here to that parlay test. And that's going to be a 3, doing the math here real quick, that's, a 3 versus 6. Chaos Bag says -1, so we pass. So we put a clue on Peter, and then since there's a clue on him, we're able to grab him. Very nice. And he doesn't take up an ally slot, so we can keep him and other Peter around. Yeah, and then I just do some double checking here. And we have dueling Peters, so we enter the enemy phase. The mobster gets discarded, the servant readies, and the conglomeration moves to the card room. Upkeep phase, I'll gain a resource. I'll draw track shoes, and now we have 6 cards in our hand. We'll go up to 6 Doom here. Final turn. It should be, I know it says 5, but it should be 6. Then we'll draw Caught Cheating. So we'll have to lose 2 resources, which is obviously a real bummer here. But taking a damage kinda sucks, but we'll go ahead and put that on Peter. He can tank that for us, he's a nice guy. And then I finally remember to remove the horror from Peter, and then we surge into another copy of Raise the Stakes. And this time, I'm just going to go ahead and lose 5 resources, whatever. It really doesn't matter. Our game plan is pretty obvious at that point, or rather at this point. So, moving into the investigation phase here, we're going to go ahead and use our first action to move, use track shoes. That's going to be a 3 versus 7. Yep, 3 versus 7. Chaos Bag, give it a shuffle. Go ahead and see what that says. It says -1, so we pass. Yep, and that was the test we needed to pass, so we go ahead and move into the darkened hallway with our second action. Or from the darkened hallway to the back alley, use our last action to resign, and that's it. Yep, so we resign here, and yeah, I just do some double checking, but yeah, we're able to resign and get resolution 3. This was about as good of a run of this scenario as you're going to get. Drawing a ton of enemies in this scenario isn't the worst thing for Rita, as she can leverage her high agility to get free move actions. That, coupled with track shoes, and you're zipping across the map no problem. While I did make a couple errors in the game, I decided to share this playthrough because I felt they wouldn't have altered the overall outcome. The extra action I used to gain a resource was followed up by having to take 2 damage and spend an action evading an enemy I shouldn't have had to. Cheating in this scenario means I have to add an Elder thing to the Chaos Bag, but without cheating I doubt I would have survived. We unfortunately didn't find Dr. Francis Morgan, but saving Peter Clover and having the O'Banions on our side should hopefully pay dividends later on in the campaign, provided that we can survive the riot across Essex County. That's going to be it for this video. What would you have done differently? Were there any mistakes that I'd missed? Leave your thoughts down in the comments below, or join the Great Old Ones Discord server. If you like this video, don't forget to leave it a thumbs up, and if you want to be notified when my videos go live, hit that subscribe button to become one of the many that are lost in time and space. Thank you as always for watching, and have a great day.